Welcome back to the Wizard's office, shop, whatever. We got a nice warm, well, not very warm looking, but it's warm in here. 1912, that's the year that the Titanic sank. It's also the year that this book was printed. For people that had been utilizing horses all their life and had no idea how an automobile worked or even what in the world was all about. This is called Automobile Catechism from 1912. You guys have mentioned in many of the comments that I have an ASMR voice. You like to hear me speak, it's so soothing to you, so I thought I'd read to you a passage out of this 1912 Automobile Catechism. The things they tell you to do in this book is really strange. It's stuff that we don't even think about today, technology that's not even around anymore. So let's take a look here. This one's about cold starting an engine. It says, if the motor is cold and will not start, what may be done? A. Prime the cylinders by putting about a thimble full of gasoline into each one. A cup-shaped priming valve for this purpose is found on the cylinders of several makes of cars. Place a stop over the main air intake of the carburetor so as to nearly close it. One's hand will serve. Some carburetors have a valve for this purpose. Warm the cylinders by pouring hot water into the water jacket space or over the outside of the engine. Care should be taken not to wet the magneto or spark coil. Warm the cylinders with a torch. The flame of the torch should be moved rapidly over the cylinder surface, since directing it against one spot for some time is apt to crack or otherwise injure the cylinder. The flame should not be allowed to come near the insulated electric wires. The insulation is almost always made partly of rubber or other combustible substance which is readily injured by fire. Neither should the flame be allowed to strike the ignition plug long, especially if it has porcelain insulation. The temper of springs may be drawn if struck by the flame. A piece of cotton waste on the end of a wire can be used as a torch when saturated with gasoline or kerosene. The use of fire about the motor in the above manner should always be preceded with the precaution of removing gasoline and oil which have accumulated in the drip pan or apron or about other parts of the car. That all sounds very dangerous. That's definitely not politically correct for today's method of starting the car. Light a fire and put it under your engine. Wow. Maybe that's why the Titanic sank. They followed this book. Anyways, let's get back to cars. Thinking about winter. It's cold outside. It's cold today here in Kansas. Let's talk about winterizing your car and getting it ready for the winter. Let's head out back into the shop and leave this crazy... That looks like Chernobyl, guys. Wow. All right, let's head to the shop. Okay, well that's enough about silliness about reading out of the book and the whole thing. Let's actually do something useful for you guys. This here is a 2010 Corvette Grand Sport. We're going to use it and another vehicle in the shop today to go over winterization tips. Many people go into winter, very busy schedule, especially as Christmas is getting close, and they don't think about having their car ready for the winter. And some of you, especially in the Midwest, it could be springtime weather one day, and the next day be a full-blown blizzard. And how do you prepare? I mean, sometimes these things happen unexpectedly, so it's not so simple as check your wiper blades, check your antifreeze, yeah, you're good to go. There's a lot more to it, guys, and we're going to go over that with you today. The first thing you want to check, which is really easy to check, is your wiper blades. You want to pick up the whole arm and feel underneath the blade. There's a kind of a sharp edge of the blade itself. Make sure there's no tears, no cracks. Make sure it's actually there. Some of them can be missing the whole rubber portion. Kind of like this. You should see a smooth rubber edge along the whole length of the blade. This is not what you should be seeing right here. If your blades look like that, what I just showed you, it's time for new blades. The next thing is the battery condition. I have seen many batteries come in the shop that there is enough juice in the battery, enough life in it, to start the car in warm weather, 1 or 2 starts, and that's really all the battery has. And you never realize that that's all that it has until the temperature drops one day. And you go outside and click, done. The battery's done. It's just like having a cell phone out in cold weather. The battery will just start dropping fast. It's something you didn't notice in the spring, summer, and maybe even the fall, and all of a sudden it's dead. And you're like, well, it started all summer long. Why is it dead all of a sudden? It's because there was just enough residual charge to barely start the vehicle. Now you place a huge demand on it, the battery's done. You need to take it, and you can take it to your favorite parts store or your local mechanic and just have them load test the battery. One thing that's really cool, guys, is I'm going to actually show in an upcoming video from a company called Midtronics. A machine, a tool that's used to check batteries, alternators, starters, all kinds of things. They've given me the tool. We're going to go over and show you how to check these things. But for now, your local parts store can test your battery for you. I really recommend you get it tested. You might be surprised, especially if it's getting into the 4th or 5th year of life in the battery. That's typically the lifespan of a battery, between 4 to 6 years. Just like the ML350 that I now drive, it was Miss Wizard's. We went on a vacation over Christmas time. It was starting just fine, everything was great. We flew out to our destination. We came back and it was like 8 degrees outside. And it did start, but it almost didn't start. And that's shame on us because we didn't check the battery to make sure it's good. Another thing is your alternator. You can have those checked for free at your local parts store or your local mechanic. If he does a winter check, he might check that too. How many amps is it putting out? What happens when you place an additional load on it? Does it kind of just die out on you? Or definitely want to get your alternator checked. So here's the alternator on this vehicle, this beautiful LS3. This is easy to get to. They can put an amps clamp around the output wire on the alternator, and they can tell you the output, how many amps it's putting out. They can load test it. They can tell you the health of your alternator. That's a good thing to know. Another thing to check is belt condition. Some cars have V-belts, older cars. All modern cars have a serpentine belt that have grooves or ribs on the underside of it. You want the ribs to be smooth and free of cracks. Also, make sure the full width of the belt is there. It can be a whole strip missing. If the backside or the grooved portion of your belt looks like this, that's bad. That could break, snap on you, and leave you with an engine that could overheat, and you're stuck on the side of the road in 0-degree temperature. You want to make sure your belts are taken care of. Make sure you check some of this stuff yourself or take it to your trusted mechanic. Don't go to a quick lube place and have them check it over for you, because they're going to tell you, oh, you need $7,000 worth of work. You need this, and the stuff doesn't need to be replaced. They just want your money. So make sure you take it to a trusted mechanic, or maybe a friend or a family member who's somewhat mechanically inclined. These are easy checks to check over if you're not familiar with the vehicle. You also want to check your antifreeze, which is right here on this vehicle. So you can go to Walmart or your favorite auto parts store and pick up one of these antifreeze testers. Your antifreeze may have done just fine all summer long, but what's it going to do when it's -5 out? Will it be able to protect your engine at -5? There's only one way to find out. When the engine's cool, not when it's hot, because if it's hot, it'll blast you in the face like a volcano. When it's cool or cold, and take the cap off, you squeeze the bulb and fill it up. So we've zoomed in on this, and you can see that this antifreeze is good to about -40. The little red arrow floats up and indicates what it's good to. On one side you'll see a freeze point, and on the other side you'll see a boiling point. That's for the summer. That's for really summer driving. We're focusing on freeze point. Read the one that says freeze point. And like I said, we're good to -40 here, which means he's good, unless he's in the Antarctic or something where he may have to run stronger concentrations. This is good to go. If you test your antifreeze and it's -5 or 0, you're going to have to take it in and get your antifreeze flushed and put brand new antifreeze at the proper concentration. Because if you have a night where it gets down to -5 or 10, it could freeze and ruin, trash your engine block. It'll crack the metal, and you don't want that. So even if your engine survives a scenario like that, your radiator likely is going to be damaged, your reservoir could be damaged, hoses could burst. It's not a, I've seen it before, it's not a good scenario. It's a peace of mind to check it and make sure it's good to go for the winter. That's not a thing you want to skimp on. So now we're going to move on down the list on the next things on the list. And here we'll have this beautiful CTSV. One thing that's going to be very important, especially during a snowstorm or an ice storm, is to have all of your lights working. Every single light. If you have one of these side markers out, oh, that's not a big deal. Yes, it is a big deal. Because from the side, if it's snowing and it's hard to see you and they don't see you, boom, it could cause an accident. So, well, it was weather conditions, your light was out, I didn't see you. You want to have every single bulb on your car, even the tag lights, everything in good condition. That's something that you don't have to take it to a mechanic. You can have a buddy walk around as you turn on every single light and make sure they're all ready to go. The next thing that's very important is tire condition. This guy is actually already prepared for the winter. His front tires are street tires or normal tires, but this is a rear-wheel drive. His rear tires already have snow tires on it. This guy already set himself up for the winter with his tires. He'll be able to get traction, but one thing you want to keep in mind on slick conditions is stopping. Will these tires stop in a slick condition? Very likely they'll do just fine, but if they're bald or getting close to being bald, that can be the difference between you hitting someone or not hitting someone, just based on the condition of your tires. You can have someone turn the tire and you can inspect the treads. If your tires look like this, it's time for new tires. If they look like this, you're good to go. You want some thick tread, nice thick tread for the winter. Another thing you want to have checked is probably take to the mechanic, your trusted mechanic, is have your complete brake system checked. Not just the pads, but all the flex hoses, the fluid condition, the fluid level. Check all the brakes all the way around and make sure they're working. The last thing you want in slick conditions in the winter is you go to hit the brakes and one of your hoses blows and then your pedal goes to the floor. Now what? You don't want that scenario happening while there's a blizzard happening. Have your brakes checked at your local mechanic. See if you can catch anything before disaster strikes. The next thing on the list, your heater and your defroster. Guys, I can't stress enough how many cars I've seen come in, especially during the winter, that you turn on the heater and it does blow heat. It's blowing a little bit out of the defrost, a little bit out of the vent, a little bit out of the floor. Something's wrong inside of the dash where they can't physically even select the different modes. Floor, vent, defrost. It doesn't matter. It doesn't work. And I'm like, this is so dangerous. If there's sleet coming down and starting to stick to your windshield, you need to have full defrost capabilities. Make sure you can go to full defrost with your mode selector. That's not something to say, I'll fix that later, and then you catch yourself in a snowstorm and it's not working. A lot of these can be vacuum controlled, some of them are electronic, and it can be very expensive. Some people put this stuff off because they got a quote for $1,200 to pull their dash and put the new mode actuator in. I would rather save up and make sure I get that taken care of than to not be able to clear my windshield and run into somebody. Now, I'm not trying to go through this whole list to drum up business or try to take people's money. This is for safety, guys. These are really cool cars that I just showed you. Not only don't want anyone to get hurt, that's the primary thing, but I don't want to see these kinds of cars hurt either. Fender benders and things. It's such a beautiful car. You don't want to just bang it up because you cheaped out on something. The last thing on my list is an emergency kit. Have a small little crate or something with these items in it. One of the items is obvious, a blanket, a nice thick blanket. So if you do break down and you're waiting on a tow truck, you can wrap it around you and you can stay warm. Also a hat and gloves. If you have to get out for any reason, you can at least put these on and keep warm and take care of what you need to do. Like if there's a road hazard and you need to clear something, you need to be out in the weather, you could stay warm and then get back in and put your blanket on. Another really cool thing would be the emergency cell phone chargers. They're just like a little brick that if your cell phone's already kind of low and you're having to make phone calls and I'm broke down and need help and oh crap, my phone died. Well, now you can plug this in and get those phone calls made. That would be disastrous to think that something like that would happen. You can't say, oh, I'll just plug it into my charger and charge my phone up. What if your engine broke down? What if something's wrong? Now you can't charge your phone. Some outlets turn off when you turn the key off or the engine's not running. Maybe you have a charging system and the battery died. You're not going to charge off of a dead battery. So have one of those little emergency cell phone chargers handy. That's a very good thing to have. An ice scraper, obviously, that's a nice thing to have in your glove box, or you can have it in your emergency kit. If it's sleeting outside and you're trying to see is the tow truck guy coming or you can't see around you, at least you could scrape the windows and see what's going on around you. There are weather conditions that are so severe that even a defroster that's in perfect working order is not enough to keep up. It's so cold and it's sleeting, it just continues to accumulate and accumulate. That's when the ice scraper comes in handy. You can pull over, turn on your hazards, make sure it's clear, no traffic, and get out and scrape the stuff off and get back in your car and be on your way. And that also reminds me, your washer fluid reservoir, make sure it's full of -20 or better washer fluid, because if that freezes up, it's useless. You can't even wash off the snow and stuff off your windshield. And the last thing is maybe a few snacks, some granola bars. You don't want to have bottled water at this time of year because it could balloon or burst and spill all inside your car during cold weather. That's probably, and it's so cold out, you want to stay hydrated, but that's not important at this moment. The importance is staying warm. If it's going to be an hour or two before you get a tow truck, it's nice to have a little snack and get some energy in you. You can help stay warm. So have a couple of granola bars or something, a bag of chips in there. If you're traveling to a location, let them know ahead of time, hey, I'm headed your way. I should be there in 2 hours, 3, or whatever, however long it's going to take. So they know when to expect you. And if it's been 5 hours and you told them it's going to be 3, they know something's wrong. It's time to start finding out what happened. I hope some of this stuff helps you guys to get ready for the winter. If you live south of the equator, wait 6 months and watch this video and it may apply to you. This is for the northern hemisphere right now. But a lot of the things I just listed are easily skipped over. It's like, it worked all summer long, should be fine. No, you need to really have it checked, because it's very inconvenient when it's freezing cold and it stops and quits working on you. So anyway, some of the items I listed in the emergency kit are for sale on our Amazon affiliates page. You might check that out. Also, any tools that I use, or you want to know what tools that I use, that's listed there as well. And in this cold weather, we have hats, we have hoodies, we have things of that nature for sale, merchandise in the link below. And we got many more cool videos to come. I just thought this is the time of the year to go over a winterization checklist and also a little bonus ASMR book reading for you guys. So, see you in the next video.